Well, good afternoon and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Old But Crypto. May the 21st, 2024. What an interesting 24 hours or even 12 hours that we've seen in the land of ETH, which is what I primarily post out on Twitter and make videos about on YouTube. And as you'll see here, it's been a nice 24 hours for myself as a result. Profits taken, ETF approvals imminent. We'll get to that in a moment. And the next trading strategy, most important of all, what we do about it. So, as I said, last couple of days, had a nice couple of trades there to harness the power of ETH as it's flown through all these levels with the speculation that ETH ETF approvals are coming. So hopefully you have it within your means and have profited also. And I'll say here right now, none of what I say is financial advice. You do you, like I do my own trades. And please hit the like and subscribe buttons and notification bell to be notified of future videos. You know, I posted on Twitter this morning, and it's really important to remember this. It's to stay disciplined in these exciting times. As I say here, whatever the cause, when your exit triggered fires, which is these two size 3 liquidation bubbles in a row on the hourly chart for me, that's an early indicator that things are starting to get toppy. In general, that's the case. Obviously, sometimes we can blow through to the upside or downside, but about 80% of the time it's reliable. You got to be disciplined and take profit. So mine triggered early this morning Australian time, and I could have held and made more. Yes, indeed. But I've learned not to second guess when I have got a back-tested, established trading system. Then I don't second guess myself. Close that trade out and took profit as I showed you on the initial splash screen. So let's get to the meat of the recent action and say exactly what did happen. Well, as you'll see here, this is the hourly chart. And I'll zoom out to the higher time frame in a minute. But at 5 o'clock this morning, Australian time, basically all hell broke loose. And that was that a couple of big accounts on Twitter posted information that the ETH ETF approvals were likely to go ahead when everyone had been expecting them to be denied on the 23rd and 24th due to the behavior of the SEC suddenly starting to engage with the exchanges who list ETH and getting them to make sure they're compliant with the required paperwork. And so that was the catalyst, and it kicked off, and it's just continued on through the day. There's certainly been no indication that what's been said is incorrect, not necessarily speculation because it's coming from people in the know within the industry, but it's certainly a U-turn from the SEC and Uncle Gary, who's obviously gritting his teeth furiously at the moment, just like he did over the BTC ETF approvals. It hasn't happened yet, of course, still to come on the 23rd and 24th, but anyway, this is the action that happened today. Massive green candles, what they often call God candles, which blew right through so many levels of resistance. I won't go into great detail in that right now, but lots and lots of resistance. Took out huge amounts, billions of liquidity in shorts, as you can imagine. And we're sitting up around this next resistance level, around the $3,700. Now, of course, higher time frame really tells a story. We're looking at the chart on the daily here, which is, you've seen me refer to this chart quite a bit in recent times. And as it's developed, and basically it's gone perfectly from a technical perspective, but of course it's been a white swan event rather than a black swan event, which has broken us out of this range, and that is, of course, the ETH ETF approval speculations. And you see here we had the falling wedge pattern, as I've described here, coming into this temporary range low, and as it gets narrower and narrower, getting closer and closer to the breakout. And of course, that's what we've had here. For whatever reason, in this case, an anomaly, it has broken out, and you'll see the massive God candle on the daily. So we've come out of this temporary range low. We've done so quite convincingly. And so we're back into this range, which has been going on since February this year. Now you see this here. Now that doesn't mean we're going to stay in that range, but that's where we're at now. And so what we need to do is trade the charts in front of us level to level and do so with discipline and caution, because as we know in crypto, these sort of moves can be reversed. Could you imagine what would happen if the ETF approvals are denied in a couple of days' time? There's going to be a lot of reversal of this green candle. Anyway, so this is where we're at. So we're currently above the mid-range, 35.45, heading to the range high, which is the yearly high, 4,100. And we're sitting here just above that mid-range. So we're in a holding pattern at the moment. We're watching to see the reaction in the US session, particularly tonight, be very critical. We're about 8 hours away from that right now. So at the moment, watching and waiting. Have my new position set after taking profit this morning, and I'll go over that in a minute. So what I've been doing since I closed out this trade this morning at 3,500, I have been DCAing in. So every $50 that ETH has been advancing in price, I've been adding another 1.25 ETH to my low time frame position. It's low time frame at the moment. There's nothing to say it's going to turn into a high time frame position, but my position, trading position regardless. So I've been adding 1.25 ETH and just DCAing in. Now, if we come back down below this, I'm going to continue to do so because, in my opinion, there's a lot more upside towards the yearly high of that 4,100. In which case, that's a hard stop for me on the high time frame and the low time frame, and a really big examination of where we are at the moment. But anyway, I'm DCAing in every $50. The position you take is up to you, but for me, that's a conservative strategy. I've got plenty of capital behind me so that I'm not going to get stopped out to the downside. And so you have to really, to conserve your capital, think the same way. It's great to be making heaps of money, but then greed can come in and you can get wiped out really quickly in crypto land. And having sounded that word of caution, and it is important to be cautious in crypto because you need to preserve your capital. You really do, because as I said, you can so easily get wiped out. And anyone that's been in trading for any length of time will be able to tell you horror stories of how they've been overexposed, over-leveraged, and got hammered and lost a big chunk of money. Anyway, so let's go to the ETH BTC chart. And again, very instructive. And you'll see these levels that I marked out previously. And this appears to be now, that was a temporary range that we were in, just like the temporary price range, and it seems to have deviated below. And of course, what's ended the deviation is, again, this gold candle. And so now we're right above the high time frame range bottom. And it's important not to get too excited in that sense, but also excited on another sense in that this is an historic low over a long period of time, high time frame, going back many, many, many months for ETH against BTC. So you can imagine the upside that it's got. And we're just now re-entering the bottom of that range. And so this is on the daily again. We now need to see where we end up in the next few days. Now, this could come back and test given that the ETH ETFs are approved, it could come back and test this again, especially if BTC gets a wriggle on like it has been. Before continuation to the upside. But that's certainly what I'm expecting, is continuation to the upside. But I will not be surprised if we come and test, which is very common for high time frame range extremities, for this low to get tested again before we go off again. And we're into the mania parabolic phase, whatever you like to call it, but certainly a big uptrend for ETH against BTC. But this is perhaps the most exciting chart of the day, showing of how early we are in the breakout of ETH against BTC. Now, as I often say, you do you, and I don't want to be a nervous Nelly or advise you to be a nervous Nelly or anything like that, but look at these funding rates. They're just, obviously they've exploded. BTC 22, Ethereum 26, and they'll go a lot further on the upside later in the week, given that these approvals come through for ETH. So just be aware that you're going to get really, really hammered by the exchanges over these funding rates, and that makes you consider the length of your trade that you're going to hold, because they're really, really high. And I have an opinion about that and about, shall we say, the rapacious thieves that are the centralized exchanges, but I'll leave that for another time. Now, I'm going to show you something interesting here with the liquidations. And you can imagine this is all just blown straight through in the last 12 hours. All of these shorts, billions and billions and billions have got liquidated in the last 12 hours. No surprise there. But so you'll see here, you don't often see this sort of pattern, but you'll see they're all taken out. And now the market's looking for more liquidity to come in. And let's have a look at this. Now, that's on the weekly. Let's have a look at the 24-hour chart. And my goodness me, there's some shorters up there that are incredibly brave at the moment. Now, each individual might be only putting a small amount in on speculation. But just as we say, don't catch knives to the downside, you don't want to be caught trampolining in a room with a low ceiling to the upside, that's for sure, because these guys are asking for trouble. Sure, we could come down here to 3,600 and have a lot of liquidations down there from greedy longers or late longers that have come in. But these guys here are asking for trouble. And it's not necessarily the liquidations or the liquidity that's going to push the market to the upside. It's the very fact of the hype, the froth, the speculation, especially from the retail side of things, but also institutions as well, when these ETH ETFs get approved. And when I say when, it seems to be the consensus, which is completely flounced from less than 25%, depending on the commentator you listen to less than 10% a couple of days ago to over 75% chance now, and simply because of the behaviour of the SEC. But anyway, important to know, the 23rd here for VanEck and the 24th for ARK Investments is when the decision has to be made by dear comrade Gensler and Politburo at the SEC, and as I said, through gritted teeth, you can imagine that that's very neck. So obviously, they're the key dates. Now, as I said before, it could be rejected, absolutely. And as we see, if you just look at the commentary in the last few days, the SEC analysts aren't exactly enthusiastic. And these are people who know their stuff. Head of the Digital Asset Council of Financial Professionals, they would be astonished if the SEC said yes, and they're astonished now. VanEck CEO expected them to be rejected, and so they should have, given the lack of engagement with the community from the SEC. But now that's all turned around. So winding up here, and I'm sure you don't want to hear me banging on about all this all the time for much longer, because you probably want to get back to trading. Here's a trade within your means, simple as that. And you'll see here, as I said, my strategy is to DCA in every $50. We'll continue to do so, and down as far as the range low of 30.56, because I believe that we are now back into this range, even though it's only been for less than a day, really. If you can discount this God candle, because it's obviously an anomaly, is that I'll be DCAing all the way down to there. And if we get down to the range low, I'll be having another look at where we're at. But at the moment, DCA time for me. But just one last thing I must remind you of: remember to take profits when your exit triggers, which you should have set when you enter a trade. When they fire, take those profits. No one ever died for taking profits. This is Old Bloke Crypto. I'll try that again. This is Old Bloke Crypto. Stay safe, trade within your means, and I will talk to you next time.